The Fourth Bill of Rights and Responsibilities says that authenticity and conscience demand that these following freedoms be safeguarded: freedom of expression, freedom to dissent, freedom of assembly, and freedom from arbitrary accusations. I don't think that needs much commentary. I think that is fairly self-evident. The fifth right was that all the baptized have the right to all the sacraments, and this presumption is always in their favor and never compromised by standards extrinsic to the nature of the sacrament. So, if someone is going to be denied a sacrament, it cannot be because something outside the very dynamic of this sacrament is being utilized to exclude you from it. A clear example might be that gender would make it impossible for you to be ordained. A sixth right is that all the baptized have the right to their reputation and integrity and the right to resist institutional church policies which seek to annul these. No human community can function. A global ethic around the world would recognize that for all communities, that your integrity and your reputation have to be respected by whatever community you belong to, or else it is not truly a community. The seventh was that the baptized must be protected by a separation of executive, legislative, and judicial powers in the church, and by the right to choose their leaders and hold them accountable. It seems that if we ever try to collapse all of these different powers, executive, legislative, and judicial, into one person or one structure only, that sooner or later there is going to be a great deal of mischief. Now, we know that mischief is able to occur, and indeed does quite regularly, even with the separation of powers. But we don't have any better structural stratagem than separating these powers, which enables us to guarantee that the violation of authority would be kept to a minimum. The eighth element is that the baptized at large have an essential role to play in the interpretation of the gospel in the church's tradition. That is so important. The gospel and the tradition are not fundamentally given to only one structure in the church, the hierarchy or theologians or the laity, but to the community at large. And therefore, it is the responsibility of that community to find a way for those different voices to be heard. As Cardinal Newman said so well, the church would look very strange if you remove the laity from it. And also, if you remove the voice of the laity, you would also have a community that would sound very strange. The Ninth Bill of Rights says that baptized and ordained Catholics have the right to a structured and legal assembly where their different voices can be heard and heeded. What this means is that there should be structures in the different regions of the church where baptized and ordained, even without the permission or approval of the bishop, who also deserves a voice, by the way, but the baptized and ordained have the right to gather together into a structured and legal assembly that is able to deliberate on the different issues that lie before the church, collaborating together in a collegial fashion without, as I said, excluding totally the voice of the bishop, but not in the way in which we find that voice exercised today in the church, namely where the bishop has a dominating role to play. The bishop has a very important role to play, but the baptized and the ordained have a no less essential role, and we cannot have that role exercised unless there is a structured and legal assembly where those voices can be articulated. And then the last and 10th was that the baptized must be adequately represented with voting rights in ecumenical councils, since that is the highest deliberative body in the church, and indeed that council should be summoned automatically at regular intervals or by universal petition. Actually, the tradition of the church for the first 1,000 years gave a voice to the laity. Indeed, only lay people called councils through the first 1,000 years of the church's existence, the emperor or the empress. And lay people were represented also through the Middle Ages and with voting rights, indeed. Furthermore, a church council, the Council of Constance in the 15th century, made it quite clear that the church required, basically about every 25 years, an ecumenical council which would be summoned automatically once that time period was up, so that the council would not be able to be manipulated by any authority in the church that might find it inconvenient or unwelcome. You can find all of these rights on the website of the American Catholic Council, which actually is the American Catholic Council as one word.org. As you read through these again, I hope that my reading of them and some of the brief commentary that I have just given on them will help you to understand and to appreciate them. We ask you to reflect on the great privilege it is to be a Catholic and to be an American, and how fortunate we are that we are living at a time when the legitimacy of both of these great qualities, Catholic and American, can be so clearly established.